Master.
Hello ladies and gentlemen, I am BorderWise and welcome back to From the Depths Most Wanted. And today's entry might surprise a few people, and those people will probably be saying something along the lines of, BorderWise, this is Most Wanted. This is a series about the most dangerous, hard to fight things in the NATO campaign. What is this expert level craft doing here? Well, the first reason why we're doing this ship, which is the Alcazar, Onyx Watch expert level cruiser type thing, is because ages ago somebody requested that I cover it. I can't remember who it was, but it was a request, and that's the first priority of me covering these things, is if somebody wants me to. The second thing is that when I saw that request, I remember thinking to myself, what, the Alcazar? That's expert level craft, it's not that bad, like, how could you have trouble with it? Then I started using this thing as a target dummy for testing CRAMs and advanced cannons and just weapons in general. And this is a very annoying craft for its difficulty level. I'm gonna say this straight up, if you can handle godly level Onyx Watchcraft, so if you can deal with like pinnacles, anglers, bulwarks, the trebuchet, the iron cordon, and like the Huskal and things like that, you are probably not going to have trouble with the Alcazar. But keeping in mind that not everybody who watches these videos is a veteran of From the Depths, you've probably been nastily surprised by this at least once if you've gotten through the NATO campaign and gotten as far as the Onyx Watch on expert difficulty or above. This thing is, it's one of those craft that is more annoying than super dangerous. It's a little bit like the Eerie in that sense, although the Eerie is by far worse in every single way. This thing is just, this thing wastes your time more than anything else unless you are specifically prepared for it. Which I guess is what this video is about. It's how to deal with it quickly and efficiently rather than how to survive the devastating onslaught it has. Which it doesn't, by the way. It's not that devastating. In any case, so, what is this thing? It is a cruiser, at least according to its description right here. It has fluff. I love it when craft has backstory, 45 campaign points, battle points, so they don't show up much. So this is a support ship, so it's not a thing that's designed to just straight up murder the opposition. It's designed to kind of support other ships, and that makes sense because it has a bit of specialist weaponry to help it do that. But the most notable feature about this craft is it is mostly, the main ingredient in it is empty space. Most of the bulk of this craft, there is nothing in there. There is just huge amounts of empty space in it. And this offends me slightly that any craft, look at this, look how much space is in here. And this is both a strength and a weakness for this particular craft. The strength being is that, you can't damage empty air. So what happens is if you have weapons like that you probably would have if you've just dealt with the Deepwater Guard, you'll have fragments or high explosive or something like that. What would happen is that you blow a hole in it and it does nothing because it's a relatively small hole compared to a massive air gap in here, and any surface damage, either fragment or explosive or kinetic, doesn't get anywhere near the important bits, like this AI right here, and there's ammo hidden where is it? I remember where it was. It's over here. Yep, over here. Huge amount of empty space in here. So that's already frustrating. This thing takes a very long time to kill simply because it has a lot of blocks. A huge amount of blocks, in fact, and they do nothing but make it big. And bigger things pretty much always take a longer time to kill simply because there's more of it. So that's one thing to keep in mind. Another thing that makes it hard to deal with quickly is because it has these massive spaces in here, and it has air pumps in all of them, so this thing is actually pretty buoyant. So much so that I suspect that you can see these PID-controlled props here are actually, well, I think these are roll props more than anything else, but they're actually keeping it down in the water. Because if you disabled those PIDs, I suspect what would happen is this thing would float incredibly well. In fact, let's just test that right now and see if I'm right. So, the PIDs are over here, and it's got the full Monty. It's got pitch PIDs, roll, and air pump altitude. So if I delete this, is this going to pop out of the water? No, it is not. It is not going to do that. Okay, I'm wrong. This thing is heavier than it looks. But if we go here, what is this set to? Set to... Actually, yeah. So this thing actually... Interesting. This thing doesn't actually make full... Oh, yep, there it goes. It's rising out of the water a little bit. Or at least I think it is. That might just be my imagination. But in any case, this craft is super buoyant despite the fact it's mostly made of metal. And the PID on it also means it doesn't roll over or pitch down easily. So it's not an easy craft to sink. And as far as... This is a front-sider, by the way, so it faces enemies head-on. So in that way, it's a little bit like the Iron Cordon or the Trebuchet. Like, it's basically the smaller, more annoying brother of those two. Or at least, still very annoying. So if we go to... Where is it? Naval movement. The broadside angle is set to 1 degree. So this thing points straight at the target. So if we spawn in a target right here, let's spawn in a Constitution. Because I love irony. I didn't mean to do that, because that Constitution is now spawned in like that. Let's spawn in the Alcazar, and then let's spawn in a Ransack. Oh, that's unfortunate for you, Ransack. So this is how this craft moves. So you see it keeps staying straight on with light over this, and that means that that's this big cram, the small, well, that cram cannon, that cram cannon, that cram cannon, these two cram cannons, and these side-mounted frag guns can all aim at the same target. So it has the usual front-sided benefits, which means it's quite a narrow target from the front, or at least a narrower target. And the front armor isn't incredible. It's not nearly as completely mad as the Iron Cordon, which, as I recall, has about 7 layers of metal. This has a slightly less insane 4 meters of metal, which is still a lot. 4 meters of metal is all round one of the better armor schemes you can have, and it has it right on the front here. Trying to get through the nose of this thing is not really easy. And around the edge, it has 3 meters of armor going all the way down. It like thins a bit to 2 over here, which is still pretty good against explosions. And around here, this little joint right here around these ammo barrels, that's about 3 meters of armor, depending on the angle. Over here, 2 meters, all around. So, it's not badly armored by any means. Like, even on the back here, 2 layers of metal. But main point is, this thing keeps its armored nose straight forward, straight pointed at the enemy, and it's even cross-hatched a little bit. I'm not sure if this was intentional on whoever built this. That might be just how they managed to get the blocks arranged. But yeah, so where is this? Yes. So, nice and thick, nice thick frontal armor, and it keeps that pointed straight towards it. And it also, and this will amuse anyone who's watched my content long term, it has a LAM system. It has a very annoying LAM system, as it happens. So, let's spawn in something with a fair bit of cram cannons on it. Nothing too silly. Let's spawn in a Capitol. Well, that didn't work so well. That, in fact, is a bad demonstration, because the Capitol uses kinetic shells. What was I thinking? So in that case, this LAM system right on the front here is, well, it's... I'm pretty sure that whoever knows their LAM systems very well will probably shake their heads a little bit at seeing this, because it looks like this. It's not a huge LAM system, but it is a decent one. It's got lots of pumps on it, lots and lots of pumps. It's got one storage cavity, and it has destabilizers. And this is usually a bit of a no-no when it comes to using lasers, because destabilizers massively increase the drain on the laser. But it means that if you, say, do something like... What's something that doesn't have much crammage? Probably something one of my craft, really. So, actually, yeah, let's have a... What's something... So, I'm gonna just spawn in this guy. This guy right here, which has a lot of missiles. So if you like using missiles, the Alcazar is probably gonna annoy you no end. Because the LAM system on it still is good enough to take on missile swarms. Beep, 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 beep. So, yep. Huge missile swarm. Not happening. And has enough pumps on that LAM system to keep it going for a long, long time. Rather proud of that ship, actually. Like, I built it mostly by accident. So in any case, annoying little LAM system, and these are just small missiles, but bigger missiles don't do much better, and if you make the mistake of not throwing enough big shells at this thing at once, you are going to not have any fun with it, because that LAMS is just very irritating. LAMS usually is irritating. And also, speaking of annoying things, the other thing this has is 174mm timed frag gun. So if we poke inside this thing's insides, what do we have? We have in here this. So this is pretty standard Onyx Watch anti-air. Just timed frag. No, wrong. Has timed frag little things. And what's this? 180 and 135 and 90, so these things make pretty decent anti-air defense. Not amazing by any means, like pretty much no Onyx Watch ships except for... What was that one called? What was it called? What was it called? What was it called? I remember it. Not the Hourglass. Was it the Glaive? Yeah, the Glaive is actually a really good one because it has actual lasers. However, we go here and say we look at 1, 2, 3. I'm gonna...
Taking gunnery enabled.
See, any aircraft that flies directly overhead is gonna have a very bad time. And those guns can easily aim straight up. So let's just switch that. So again, the Alcazar is more of a support craft than anything else. It's designed to deal with threats that most Onyx Watch craft have trouble dealing with. So that's aircraft, and it's also submarines. I'm skipping ahead a little bit in my notes here, because these big APS guns right here, with heavy barrels, let's delete that for a second. Those are hang on, I keep mispronouncing this. Super cavitation guns, not super captivating guns. Although I imagine some people find them very captivating. But it's like this. So these things are 500mm. They've got decent explosive damage. They have a timed fuse, inertial fuse, and they have a super cavitation. I keep wanting to say captivation. I don't know why. Super cavitation base, which means they can shoot at submarines. Which means that while this thing isn't instant death to any submarines you might have, you might want to ensure that any submarines you send against the Onyx Watch on expert difficulty dive a little bit deeper than they usually would. So just to demonstrate that right now, I will spawn in something that my friend Boom sent me quite some time ago, and it is a submarine. That is all it is. And it is just, it's a good sub for testing things that shoot at subs. Question being is whether those guns can shoot at it. By looks of it, nope. Thanks for proving me wrong, game. Wow, the Alcazar is actually shredding itself with its own weaponry. So this is, I guess, a demonstration of how being stealthy is a good idea. Because this submarine has no active sonar, it's just got one passive sonar on top. Well done, Boom. What a derpy little submarine. Let's delete it before it actually kills the Alcazar. Wow. That's just impressive. And how much it shot itself. So in any case, submarines can still counter this, but just keep in mind, this thing can shoot at submarines slightly better than other Onyx Watch craft can. And if you're shooting it, be aware, like, aim point selection is, well, aim point targeting, that is to say, when craft aims specifically for AI components and ammo barrels, is pretty useless in general, but against craft like this, it's more useless, because what you have here is, this thing's usually going to be facing you head-on if it gets its way. So if you have aim point selection, you're aiming well below the waterline. It's like, let's see, waterline is here, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 meters below the waterline at, say, this AR mainframe, and these ammo barrels, and these ammo barrels, which are off to the side, by the way. It's another hint that this thing is a front-sliding craft. The ammo barrels are in the side of the hull, which means that anything shooting at it tends to aim slightly off to the side. So if you see my crosshairs, instead of aiming straight down the middle, which would be the smart thing to do, it aims off to the side, which means that shells come in, and they're faced with a very, very thick layer of armor to punch through. So where's them ammo barrels? So if it's aiming here, and it's aiming slightly sideways, it's not aiming, it's aiming through multiple layers of metal right here. It's aiming at an angle through here, which makes it very annoying to keep shooting at this thing when your craft has aim point. And the same goes for way back here, where most of the ammo is stored. They're off to the side. So what that means is, they're shooting way over here, and whatever shells you're using kind of hit the water. A lot of them would bounce off the water or sink. So it's quite clever aim point spoofing, and a lot of Onyx Watch craft have this kind of feature, which just makes them even more annoying to fight and kill. And speaking of fighting and killing things and being irritating, I shouldn't have done that. 2 and 3. This thing is not easy to kill just with EMP. A lot of easy and regular Onyx Watch ships are easy to kill, just with chucking a whole bunch of EMP at them. This is not one of them, and that's because their mainframes, all 2 of them, are surrounded by heavy armor. And you can get through that with EMP, but because this craft is so big, what tends to happen is that EMP hits on the outside, courses around the outside, it doesn't reach the mainframes which are right in the middle, which is tremendously irritating. It fries other things, certainly. It'll take off local weapon controllers and detection and all that kind of stuff, but trying to kill the mainframes with it, not going to work very well. The same thing goes for the other mainframe, which I've actually taken the time to find ahead of time, which is, where is it? It's not here, it's here. No, it's... dang it. I was being so smug, but here it is. Way over here in the back, with surge protectors to boot, so don't get cocky with this thing. Don't think you can just EMP it and call it a day. You're gonna need more than that. So yeah, there's that. And also, speaking of things that EMP can kill, one reason you would want EMP is because this thing has a stupid amount of repair tentacles in it. Which means that if you, say, end up with this thing spawning near other Onyx Watchcraft, which happens all the time in the campaign, it'll start repairing them. So if you get 2 Alcazars at once, that is a real problem. So if we can demonstrate like that right now, hopefully my computer does not melt. So, ship, Alcazar, Alcazar, and then off to the west we'll spawn something that should really hurt an Alcazar. So what's something... Not the Retaliator. Ye gods, not the Retaliator. Let's spawn... You know what we should spawn in? We should spawn in... shakes. Let's spawn in... a Kraken. Is that far enough away? Oh dear. That's not gonna work. That's totally not gonna work. What the? Come on, I want you to damage at least one of them. There we go. So if they're close together... They're not quite close enough together to repair each other. That's very annoying, guys. I wanted to demonstrate that. Well, you're fired. Let's try that again. Let's try that again. I want to show it. I want to show you how irritating this is. So let's do that, and then let's spawn in a Telemachus. Will you be close enough? Whoa, that's unfortunate. That's very unfortunate. Let's keep spawning Telemachuses until they're close. Not close enough. Not close enough! Damn you. Gotta do everything myself, don't I? Then I will spawn one right here. I will spawn one of my ships, one of my dumb ships. Screw it. Screw it! Screw it! I give up. I give up. No, I don't give up. I refuse. I refuse, I say! I refuse. Onyx Watch. Something, anything. I don't care what. Another Alcazar. Great. The... Onyx Watch. There we go. Then if I... What's something that spawns that'll damage them really good? Yes, I know what. I know what'll damage them really good. This is, again, skipping ahead in the script a little bit. Hello, Wadjet. Please laser one of them. Oh, I'm dripping sweat. This sucks. Are you blasted gonna repair each other or what? Yep, there you go. Repairing away. That's all I wanted to show you. Good night, folks. So if you look here, this thing is losing blocks pretty fast, but is gaining them back almost as quickly. And that is a very big laser that's shooting at them right now. So that's something to keep in mind, is that if you... The Alcazar is not the only Onyx Watch ship that does that, by the way, so try and separate them out a little bit. Your computer will also thank you, because they tend to crash into each other. And mention super captivation cells. Oh, I also should mention that this thing can keep going once its main engines are down. And the reason for that is that it has backup engines. So here you have the main engines, injector engines. What the? Yep, injector engines right here. Lots of batteries. Lots and lots of batteries connected to electric engines with a lot of spare power. About 17,000 spare power to go with the, 14,400. Not 14,000. Yeah, 14,400. This thing has a lot of power, and it's all pretty much for the LAM system right here, and for the PIDs, and for the odd shield that's attached on the turret, so yeah, that's a thing. Also, it has CRAM cannons, not especially good ones, because these are deck guns, and that's all of them right here. They're not very big, they're not very well Tetrised, they're just kind of there for Onyx Watch flavor. So, this thing is mostly irritating, as I said, so what are its weaknesses? Well, its offense leaves something to desire. It's mostly not well optimized CRAMs, so if you go here... what are the fuses on these CRAMs? 4. fuses on them are hard to find. Hello? Hello? Have you heard of our Lord and Savior Nick Smart? Where are your fuses, mate? Wow, I cannot find them. The front one doesn't have any, that's why. So there's a major weakness right now, is that it's high explosive CRAMs with no fuses on them. How about now? Nope, no fuses, and fuses? 0%. So none of the CRAM cannons have fuses on this thing, which is a bit of an oversight. Because that automatically means that they tend to bounce off armor and bounce off shields. So that's no good right there. And the main armament is slow. It's just generally slow. The muzzle velocity on these CRAMs, 149 meters per second, and the what was it? The loaded shell speed of these super cavitation, nearly said captivating, shells is around 257 meters per second, which is faster than the CRAM shells, but not by much. By APS standards, that is quite slow, which means it tends to miss things quite a bit. And the ship itself is slow, so if we get this thing rolling and get you moving over there, the overall speed of the thing is very slow. Oh, whoa, almost 4.5 meters per second. It's a wonder men can live at this speed. Joking aside, this thing is not very hydrodynamic. It is very wide and quite blunt, and it doesn't have many propulsion props. It appears to have 3 of them. So it's not very fast. You can run rings around this thing if you feel like it. It also doesn't have many shields. Now, that's not a tremendous handicap in this day and age, because, as I've said before, shields are currently pretty damn useless. They do not do the job they're meant to do at all. So if I find one, and I know there's one around here. Here they are. Here they are. Here's the shield. So, alpha, apply to all. And then I spawn our neighborhood friendly marauder. So the shields are nothing to write home about. They are tiny. They are mostly meant to stop kinetic shells from blowing up the more explodey parts of the craft. They are very small, and yeah, they're just super small and don't cover much of the craft at all. Which means you can shred this thing with kinetic shells. And they are strength 5 though, so they are reasonably strong. I consider strength 5 to be a pretty strong shield. But you can see the vast majority of the ship is not covered by them at all, so go nuts with kinetics. That will definitely work. And going back to what I said before, this empty space means this craft uses a lot of materials, far more than it needs to. It's basically just a hollow platform to stick guns on, which is what a lot of Onyx Watch craft are like. But you could, for the same cost as this thing is over 200k in material cost, you could make a much smaller and much more dangerous craft, which is clearly demonstrated, because if you go over here and you spawn in something actually dangerous, like the Trebuchet, you will see the Trebuchet is actually cheaper than the Alcazar, and I don't think I need to tell any of you that the Trebuchet is much, much worse news than the Alcazar, because it's got most of the same annoying features of it: aim point spoofing, front-sider with thick armor, PID so it doesn't sink easily, and it's also got massive F-off guns on it. So what was the point I was trying to make with that? The point I was trying to make is that there's a lot of wasted space in the Alcazar, which frankly is a class feature of Onyx Watch craft, to be perfectly honest. Okay, Trebuchet, this whole thing's not about you. Go away. There we go. So, that's the weaknesses of it. It doesn't have many weaknesses compared to the list of strengths, just looking at my notes right here, but they're glaring ones. So how do you survive it? Well, surviving it is the easy bit, because the shells, all its shells, even like, except for these anti-air frag guns, all the shells are quite slow, so you can dodge them quite easily. And if you don't feel like dodging them, then what you can do instead is lambs them. So if we go over here and then we spawn something with a decent lambs, which automatically means none of my ships, So we go Onyx Watch and we spawn in another Alcazar. This is going to be a stalemate. Whoops.
Taking gunway enabled.
I don't want to be on the ship anymore. So this isn't going to be a big stalemate because the lambs on both of them is going to nullify most of their firepower. It'll be entirely up to the frag guns, which don't have inertial fuses, and this is going to take a very, very long time. Because this is one of those craft that focuses mostly on defense, not offense. So if you've got a good lamb system, you don't have to worry about the CRAMs or the big 500mm cannons on this thing. And dodging works quite well, as I will demonstrate right now with one of my dodgy little things. Heh, dodgy. So if I go here and I just have this little guy, and hopefully he doesn't get shot out of the air immediately because that'll hurt my feelings. So this is a bomber I made some time ago. Super dodgy little thing, and hopefully it doesn't get shot to pieces. Probably not gonna be able to damage the Alcazar at all because the lamb system will pop all the smart bombs. Yep, there it goes. Not gonna dodge anything. But fast and dodgy works really well, and as usually is the case with, well, I say usually, there are exceptions with Onyx Watch craft, small fast flying things are hard counter to most of their stuff, so stay above them, fly erratically. Jeez, how is the Nazem not getting hit? That is astonishing. Those frags must be really tickling its bum right now. Having real trouble shooting at my little guy right there. So I'll stop that right there. And if you have single layered shields for both the... Whoop. If you have single layer... Oh wow, it actually managed to clip things off. Managed to clip some of the lambs off. Guess my little bomber would have won eventually. But would all be old and ugly by the time that happened. So single-layered strong shields will probably do the trick against this thing, simply because the frag rounds don't have inertial fuses, the CRAMs don't have any fuses, and these, it only has 3 of these big supercavitating guns, and they don't fire that often, so you'll probably be fine. And what else? Okay, so how to kill it? Well, the good news is that most things work against this if you are properly prepared. EMP works pretty well, so what's something that has ridiculous EMP? None of my craft, so just thinking, ready, something with a lot of EMP. Trying to think of something that has a lot of EMP on it, I can't think of it. I can't think of anything, so instead I'm going to show you how many surge protectors this thing has. So if we go down here, I'm not seeing any. Oh, look at those juicy local weapon controllers. Just in the turrets, so exposed, so alone. And the high explosive pellets, actually, which also are harmed by EMP, fun fact. If you don't believe me, well, look right here. EMP susceptibility 20%. These things get blown up by EMP surges. And, ooh, what's this? Oh, hello, another completely unprotected local weapon controller. And where are those surge protectors we saw before? They are over here. This thing has a grand total of 2 of them. And so while you might not be able to AI dead the thing completely, because of the heavy armor surrounding the mainframes, you can still fry most of the other bits on it as well. You can fry the detection systems, like this passive sonar. You can fry the LAMS nodes, or laser nipples, as they're sometimes known. Detection systems on top, local weapon controllers. So you wash the thing in EMP, big EMP charges. That should cripple it enough for you to take your time killing it. And what else? So another thing, one reasonably quick way to kill this thing is because it's a lot of empty space. The only thick armor really is on the front. Most of it is just thin layers of alloy. You can see, look how much space is in this thing. You could hold a banquet in here. It's just thin layers of alloy and metal covering the deck, so if you go through the decks, that works pretty well. I want to leave for this next bit because one of my craft has a habit of just shredding the deck of these things. So if we go way over here and spawn in one of my current favorite craft, this is the Beast. It has been showed in these things before, but the main feature of this thing is it has a lot of CRAMs and it has a smoke gun. So if you want to use CRAMs against this thing, the usual, my favorite trick of using smoked APS plus CRAMs works quite well, smokes up the lambs, stops the lambs from being very effective, and kablooey. Wow, computer can't even handle this right now. It's already 2% health gone. Right there now, and the Beast is dodgy, so the Alcazar has real trouble hitting it. Shields are in completely the wrong position for everything. Smoke gun smoking up the joint. And there goes that top gun. So CRAMs, because they deal a lot of damage, and these CRAMs aren't even armor-penetrating ones, they're just regular, plain old boring high explosive, because the armor is quite thin on the deck, and on the sides as well, you can see it is coring holes through them, allowing shells to slip through whatever holes are made. And if the Beast could stop aiming like a complete idiot, that would be very nice. There we go. I hope you weren't too fond of satellite TV, because your satellite... Oh, there's another surge protector. No, wait, that's an ACV. Never mind. I just cut off my own joke about satellite TV. So that's one way to do it. There is a method that I learned relatively recently, which is quite an old one actually, is to use a decoy, purely kinetic CRAM shell as, well, as a decoy. And what that does is the LAMS systems of the enemy craft focus on that, and they can't shoot it down at all because it's a solid kinetic shell, it's got too much health. That does work, but results may vary. I haven't mastered the trick of getting the timing of the shells firing down yet, so I would personally recommend the smoke method. The smoke method works well. And now here's the trick with this, is that, oh jeez, the Alcazar, once it's crippled, once the guns are blown off and all that jazz, there's still a huge amount of just essentially floating metal to deal with. But if you go through the deck, works pretty well. So, let's stop that right there, and let's despawn this crappy damaged Alcazar. I want a fresh one, please. Fresh Alcazar, fresh Alcazar. Alcazar could actually... Do you reckon that could be the name of a dish? That could be quite good. Have some fresh Alcazar. It's delicious. So, if you use CRAMs, use smoke, and if you use APS, as that is to say, advanced cannons, one thing the Alcazar, and this is a glaring weakness shared by pretty much all campaign craft, which I didn't mention because it really is something that all of them share, is that it's very vulnerable to HESH, to squash heads. That is because it has no spall liner. This is just plain metal all the way through, which means HESH tears a big hole in the side of this thing, thanks to thump damage, and the spalling tears more holes in the walls behind it. So these big spaces, which serve as a great deterrent against frag and high explosive, does exactly the opposite effect against HESH. Against heat, it works pretty well. HESH, not so much, and I'll demonstrate that by spawning another ship I have. Excuse me, which mostly fires heat, to be honest, but it also fires a lot of HESH. So go to ships and spawn in this big thing. And this is me going to the dark side of using APS, because this is more a gun with a ship built around it than a ship with a gun on it. Firing constant stream of 400mm tiny little heat and HESH shells. And HESH makes complete mockery of the armor of this thing. You can see that something like, whoa, goodness me, look how much metal's already been stripped off the front there. That's the HESH doing its thing. And if you duck in here, you can see for yourself, there's heat fragments going in there. Where else? Where else? You can see damaged blocks kind of floating around here, there, and everywhere. Just... The Alcazar doesn't like being hit with squash heads. Does not like it at all. So if you spam them, you will open up big holes in it, and you will ruin its life. Goodness me, the game can't handle this. Oh yeah, torpedoes are also a good idea. Boom, boom, boom. I want you in my room. Oh my god, this lag is real. Boom, boom, boom. So if you use better HESH shells than the one I'm currently... Let's stop this right now. The lag is too much. It's too much, I say. So let's look at the internal damage right here. Not that much. But going strong. Yep. There's some spalling right there. Yep. More spalling. So HESH does a wonder against this thing, and so does Hollow Point, because thump damage, as in done by missiles, hollow point shells, and squash heads, kind of laughs at armor stacking, and it also really laughs uproariously at not very thick layers of armor. So these 2-meter layers on the side here, hollow points tend to tear straight through them if they're of a big enough caliber. And because this thing doesn't have shields, you can actually use purely kinetic hollow points as opposed to hollow point high explosive, which is the regular go-to that people use when they're using hollow point shells. And also kinetic penetrators, even if they're, well, both CRAM and APS kinetic penetrators do quite a number on this thing. So if we get a fresh Alcazar again, and we spawn in one of the better kinetic penetrators in the business, so go there, Alcazar, and I want to win a fight now. That is to say, the ship whose team I'm using, I want to win a fight. I'm just gonna spawn a bulwark over here. So go over here. Why am I so sweaty? I shouldn't be. I don't want to be. Sweat glands, stop it! Let me die of heat. My team. 3, 4, 5. And so the bulwark isn't the best CRAM using thing in the game, but the kinetic penetrators on it are pretty impressive. They might not have the fuses to do anything to shields, but they do tend to go through armor pretty well. And hopefully we'll get a demonstration of that and they won't friggin' miss. Yeah, like that. Oh god, yeah, like that. Yep, so that's 7% health knocked off immediately. You can see that kinetic penetrators tend to go straight through. Jeez, man, whoa. So right here, boom, and... Wow, look what it did to the floor. The floor's gone. So it's not an entirely fair matchup, the Bulwark versus the Alcazar. But you can definitely see that kinetics do a number on this thing. So you have big kinetics, something that can get through the LAM system, that can probably kill it. Kablooey. Right, enough of that. So, what else? Well, you can definitely use particle cannons, because particle cannons, Actually, let's see. I just want to look at the Bulwark for a second, because it looks cool. Hello, Bulwark, you look awesome in my fleet colors. Goodbye. And spawn in the Alcazar again. Alcazar. Keep forgetting which ship this Most Wanted is all about. So, if you want to use missiles against this thing, I would recommend big ones, mostly focusing on thump damage and EMP. I unfortunately don't have anything like that, and neither does the campaign right at this minute. Should have thought of that earlier. But maybe I can do this instead. And by that I mean I can spawn in just a stupid amount of drones. 2, 3... Oh, hello. You spawned way closer than I thought you should have. Wow, that was a miserable failure. Right, you might have to take my word for that one. Is there anything that had big missiles yet? I don't know. I keep thinking of the Retaliator, but there's no way in hell I'm spawning that thing in. It is a lag fest waiting to happen. So, missiles, big EMP ones, big thumpy EMP ones. Particle cannons are the same. Big, you want thump damage, either to tear chunks out of the hull, or EMP just to disable it, and then tear big chunks out of the hull. And you can also laser the thing to death. And because the Alcazar has absolutely no laser defense at all, which is to be expected for most Onyx Watch craft. And where are you pointing? You are pointing north. No worries, the Wadjet can also point north. So once again spawning the Wadjet, and that's where I'm gonna leave this video, is just with the... just trolling this thing with lasers, because that's fun. Oi, 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 oi! Wadjet, Wadjet. Wadjet! You better watch it. You better watch yourself. Doop. So the Alcazar, as I say, it's not the most formidable craft, but it is annoying. But if you use stuff that defeats armor well, so we're talking HESH shells, we're talking hollow point, we're talking kinetic penetrators, and we're talking lasers, you probably will be able to kill it reasonably well. And if you're gonna want to use aim point, use lasers with them, because shells have a hard time getting below the waterline. So, you can see just, wow, the Wadjet is currently eating this craft alive. It is glorious to behold. Whenever I feel sad, I just get a Wadjet to shoot at something, and it's very, very nice. You actually managed to land a hit on it, you cheeky little thing. Wow, multiple hits. I don't like that. I don't like that at all. In any case, hope whoever wanted tips on the Alcazar, I hope you are happy. I hope that's helped. Thank you all so much for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe if you want to see more videos like this, and I will see you next time in From the Depths. Most Wanted. Farewell.